What happens when your only sex education was fear, shame, and weird diagrams? Hey, what's up? It's Alex, and this is Find a Millennial Diary. Before we get into today's episode, real quick, if you've been vibing with this series, do me a favor. Hit that follow button or subscribe button wherever you listen to podcasts. And if you want to support the show visually, head over to alexiscardoza.com and you'll find all the links to our YouTube channel and socials, etc. It really helps, and I appreciate every single one of you showing up each week. All right, now let's talk about sex, or more specifically, to talk about how most of us never really learned about sex in any meaningful way. If you went through an American public school system anytime in the 90s or early 2000s, your sex ed was likely a combo of don't do it, followed by a VHS tape showing a worst case scenario disease slideshow, then a good luck out there. So it's no surprise that so many of us reached adulthood confused, anxious, and still carrying a whole lot of shame. Now, let's talk about what we missed and how we're trying to learn it now. You see, sex ed for us was mostly abstinence-based. Maybe if you were lucky, someone handed you a condom in a brown paper bag and told you not to ask any questions. But we didn't have conversations about consent. Not really. No one ever taught us what a healthy relationship dynamic even looked like. Queer representation, not even on the radar. Emotional safety, what was that? And pleasure, please don't even go there. We were taught to be afraid of pregnancy, afraid of STDs, afraid of ourselves. The idea of connection and joy, that didn't fit the curriculum. Our curiosity got swapped for shame. We didn't learn about bodies. We learned to be uncomfortable in them. But here's the thing. School wasn't the only place we were picking up cues about this sex ed subject. TV and pop culture filled in a lot of the blanks. And honestly, that education was just as confusing. If you remember TGIF, shows like Step by Step, Boy Meets World, Full House, they sort of hint at puberty or crushes, but never really explained anything. Then you had shows like Seventh Heaven or Degrassi trying to teach us lessons while dancing around actual conversations about sex. Now, meanwhile, Thursday night must-see TV was throwing adult content into sitcoms like Mad About You and Friends, and let's not forget Baywatch, 90210, Melrose Place, entire shows built on sexual tension, lingering glances, and, by the way, slow-motion lifeguards. Even comic books were wild. Characters were drawn in ways that made no anatomical sense, male or female. Every hug looked like a prelude to something more. Sexual energy was everywhere, and we were left trying to interpret it into some type of context. And then there was the infamous Scramble TV channel. You know the one. Everyone accidentally flipped past it and tried to catch a glimpse through static, hoping to understand what we never ever were taught. Shows like Taxicab's Confessions on HBO, late night cable, after school specials. We pieced together an entire framework of sex and intimacy from media we weren't supposed to be watching. So while schools gave us shame, TV gave us fantasy. Neither gave us tools. But here's what happens when you teach an entire generation that sex is bad, unless you're married, and even then, don't enjoy it too much. See, we grow up confused. We step into adult relationships without a clue on how to talk about what we want or how we feel. We think good sex just means it wasn't awkward. We internalize every question as a personal flaw. And now we're unpacking all that years later, in therapy, through podcasts like this, in late night convos with friends where we admit, wait, you too? These days, a lot of us are still learning the way we always have on our own, secretly through memes, TikToks, and occasional sex-positive IG therapists who drop truth bombs in 90 seconds. We're figuring out how to ask for what we want without shame, how to express our needs, how to understand our bodies, our real bodies, not the ones we saw on TV or in magazines. We're learning that intimacy is more than just a performance. It's presence, it's choice, it's care. And we're finally building the vocabulary we never were ever given. So let's break this down. Gen Z, they got access to YouTube explanations, Instagram sex therapists, inclusive resources, and a ton of open conversations. They know the word boundary by like 14. They're asking questions we were too afraid to say out loud. They're not all experts, but they're starting with a whole lot more truth. Meanwhile, millennials, well, we're still out here Googling. Why does this feel weird to bring up to my partner? We were raised with secrets. They're growing up with tabs open. So where do we go from here? We start by talking about it with friends, with partners, with ourselves. We let go of the shame for not knowing sooner, right? We name what we need, and we stop apologizing for having questions. We stop confusing awkwardness for failure. Because pleasure isn't a reward, well, it's your right. And you don't need to know everything. You just need the courage to keep learning. You're not late. You're not broken. You're just human. So let's go back to the question. What happens when your only sex education was fear, shame, and weird diagrams? You get a generation of adults who are unlearning in real time. And that's okay. Trust me. On our next episode, therapy taught me how to love better. Because once we start healing the individual stuff, our relationships start to shift too. Until then, you know what to do. Visit alexiscardoza.com for all the links to the podcast, social media, and of course the YouTube channel. Follow the show, share the episode, and help us build this thing together. See, I'll leave you with this. You're not broken. You were just misinformed. And this is fine.
Goodbye.